Hi, everybody. This is Saad. I hope that your week has gone along nicely. I returned from a few days off with the family. Yesterday, I started posting again material that's not related to our vacation. One of the tweets that I posted triggered a lot of ire from people, so I wanted to discuss it today. Uh, John Voight, the actor, who's a conservative actor who certainly is an anti-woke actor, appeared on the podcast of Tucker Carlson, another person that I watch that takes positions that are intelligently anti-woke. So certainly I support many of their positions. But being someone who is intellectually honest, the fact that John Voight is, quote, in our camp doesn't mean that he is outside the bounds of being scrutinized when he says things in the public arena that are worthy of scrutiny. So in yesterday's podcast on Tucker's show, Tucker shared a clip where Mr. Voight was referring to how God spoke to him personally, not allegorically, not metaphorically, not figuratively, literally. In one case, he tells the story of when he is down on the ground saying, "This is hard," and then he hears a voice, God's voice, speak directly to him in a very clear manner and says, "Well, it's supposed to be hard." And then the next day, he opens up the radio, and there is a song about, I don't know what, going to heaven or something like that, and that was a sign. And then he kept seeing signs. So God was a DJ who was speaking to him through radio songs, who spoke to him directly. So the Lord of the universe, the God that has created all that exists since the Big Bang and before and forevermore after, chose John Voight to speak to him directly. And so I shared a tweet where I wasn't trying to be frivolously mean or nasty or juvenile, as some people said, but I said, well, it's heartwarming, Mr. Voight, that God chose to speak to you, because a lot of the Christians who steadfastly hung on to their religions and their faith at the imminent possibility of them being put to death by ISIS, as they were decapitated, they were marched to and then decapitated. God did not speak to them or listen to them, and that is a perfectly reasonable thing to state. But of course, I was dumb, I was juvenile, I was out of bounds, and this speaks to exactly what it is to suffer from the idea pathogens that I talk about in the Parasitic Mind. It is perfectly okay for me to criticize 9,999 false ideologies, but don't you dare criticize my ideology. That's just beyond the pale. That's just out of bounds. It's okay when you criticize Islam, Dr. Saad. You're a hero. It's okay when you criticize the woke Taliban. You're a hero. It's okay when you criticize some idiotic Jewish practice by the Hasidim where they fling a live chicken around, basically torturing it to death. That's okay. Oh, by the way, actually, it's not okay, because I received some angry message from a Jewish woman who thought I was a hero when I was criticizing Islam. But when I attacked that Hasidic practice, that's just disgusting. That's beyond the pale. Why are you criticizing Judaism? Right? And then people accuse me of, I only criticize the left. Well, here's a case where it was a conservative actor on the right who was arguing in the public arena. This is not personal faith, as some of the folks who wrote to me angrily were saying. He is going on one of the highest rated shows on cable TV, and he is attesting to the fact that God chose him to speak to him. He had a personal interaction with God. And I chose to raise an issue. And apparently that's out of bounds. No, nothing is above scrutiny, derision, mockery, satire, sarcasm, as I repeatedly explain in The Parasitic Mind. I'm Jewish. I support the right of Holocaust deniers to deny the existence of the Holocaust. That's what happens in a free society. So every single person who was angered, who thought I was juvenile, who thought I was mean-spirited, who thought that they had lost all hope in me, they were saddened for me that I was so shallow, you need to read The Parasitic Mind again. Let me quote you a few things from The Parasitic Mind. Here's the first one from Peter Sloterdijk, who is a German philosopher. Quote, "How much truth is contained in something can be best determined by making it thoroughly laughable and then watching to see how much joking around it can take. For truth is a matter that can stand mockery, that is freshened by any ironic gesture directed at it. Whatever cannot stand satire is false." Close quote. I wasn't even very satirical. All I said is, it's nice that God spoke to you directly, not only directly in your ear, but also through the radio songs that we're playing. So God was literally a personal DJ to you. That was beyond the pale. That's juvenile. That's mean-spirited. But when I attack Islam or Judaism or wokeism or the vegan Taliban, that's okay. There I'm a hero. Here is Salman Rushdie. Let me quote you him. "The moment you say that an idea system is sacred, whether it's a religious belief system or a secular ideology, the moment you declare a set of ideas to be immune from criticism, satire, derision, or contempt, freedom of thought becomes impossible." Close quote. And then here's a quote from me in The Parasitic Mind. The previous two quotes were also quoted in The Parasitic Mind. "The quote, 'I believe in free speech, but,' close quote, crowd violates the foundational ethos of what it means to have free speech. Usually what comes after the 'but' is an appeal to refrain from hurting people's sensibilities and feelings, as was the case yesterday on Twitter. A lot of people were very angered, were very saddened. They were no longer my friends because I mocked a guy who said that God speaks to him through radio songs. In another era, we would have called that a psychiatric patient. The general idea is that we must weigh our freedom of speech against the right of others to not be offended. No. Freedom of speech is precisely meant to protect the most obnoxious, offensive, and disgusting speech. By the way, my tweet was hardly any of those. It does not exist to ensure that you only levy beautiful compliments at me. Occasionally being offended is the price that one pays for living in a truly free society. Your feelings might get hurt, grow a pair, and move on. Okay? So I live my life with inviolable first principles, meaning nothing is above scrutiny. When I was sitting and watching Tucker Carlson yesterday, my very young son, who's still in elementary school, was sitting with me. And as we listened to Mr. Voight talk about how God spoke to him, and through the radio songs and through everywhere God was following him and communicating with him, my young son, in all of his innocence, unshackled by anything that might stop people from speaking their mind, said, "Daddy, is this guy crazy or what?" Something to that effect. Children get to the truth. The way that John Voight was speaking, frankly, to me, it was offensive because it basically does, if you like, violate the death of all people who sit there and pray, but then God doesn't come to them. By the way, there are rabbis who say that the Holocaust happened. That doesn't prove that God wasn't around. It simply shows that because the Jewish people were not adhering to the mitzvot, the 10 commandments and the 613 mitzvot, God decided to teach us a lesson. So it is perfectly okay that God allowed the Holocaust to happen. Again, you want to have personal faith, that's great. You want to espouse certain beliefs that don't harm third parties, that's okay. But once you enter the public arena and you now call yourself a vessel of God through which God is speaking to you directly, I and anyone else has every right to scrutinize that belief system. One more point. In the consuming instinct, I talked about the case of a woman who had just been freed from the rubbles in the Haiti earthquake. I think it was in 2010. And as she was freed, she broke out into a religious hymn because it demonstrated how much God was loving. She didn't for a minute think that the 200,000 other people who had died, maybe we need to be a bit more sensitive to the fact that God didn't listen to their prayers as they died. Because God works in mysterious ways. So again, if you are a proponent of reason, logic, and science, and an enlightened free society, go ahead and believe in whatever you want. But don't come at me stating that when I attacked your cherished belief, that was simply beyond the pale. That was juvenile. That was mean-spirited. It is exactly not that. Nothing could be more serious than being cognitively and intellectually consistent. I will attack idiotic Jewish beliefs, Islamic beliefs, Christian beliefs, secular beliefs, woke beliefs, because I am a man of reason. Take care, everybody.